Welcome everybody to the Street Survival School instructor meeting today. What we're doing is we've got some folks here behind the camera that are instructors that are attending. I'm running this video to try to get to as many instructors before the event as I possibly can because we're doing some new things this year. You saw that in the email. So because of the fact that some folks could not be here, I'm going to give them the opportunity to review this video as best they can, at least can get some idea of what we're doing before we show up. There will also be instructor meetings at the event, but we're hoping to not have 20 questions the morning of because that can get ugly. So again, my name's Brett Randolph I'm with the Department of Transportation. And I'm the co-chair with Rusty Daly here in the back at the event this year. So welcome everyone, and we'll go ahead and get started. So right now, an update on our registration. We have 19 instructors that are firm commitments. Most of them have registered online, and I believe all of them have taken the class, required class. If anybody thinks that they have not taken it, they need to let me know, and if you may have an email with the link, but you definitely have to take that instructor coach training online before you can be eligible to instruct. We have 32 students as of yesterday. That would be October 9th. With 32 students, that would require an absolute minimum of 16 driving instructors. So we're at a low number, but we are above that number right now, and we still have about, I think Friday at 5 p.m. is the cutoff for students to register. So we have a few more days to register. Thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out. Please pass out the agendas to everybody there. That's my fault. I don't know why I didn't even think to pass those out. So everybody, I'll give you a second to get the agenda.
Here's one here.
Is that different than what was sent out?
No, should be.
That's what I got.
Well,
That's what I got.
oh, I'm sorry, that's actually the schedule of the event, so that's not, you only one of these. Well, no, it's not different from what you had. Yeah, that's actually the schedule for the day. And I'm
Okay, everybody's got an agenda. Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeff. All right, so very important thing is check-in time. I really would like to have all driving instructors there at 7 a.m. The students start showing up at roughly 7. They should be checking. I think check-in for students starts at 7:30, but they'll start running in at any time. The earlier you guys are there, the easier it's going to be to get started. If for some reason that you can't be there at 7 a.m., all you got to do is just let me know. We'll figure that out. I just need to be prepared for who is not going to be there at that time. I know that's a little early, but again, we really want to get everybody trained. So we're going to run a instructor meeting starting at 7:15 a.m. Mark Wilson is our lead instructor. So everybody's questions from a driving instruction part, you're going to look for that man right there when he comes, or when you get there at the event. He'll be most likely at the RV that will be out there for registration or somewhere close by. If you find me, I'll be glad to get you with him as well. But he's going to be the person who's going to kind of lead the instructor meeting. Pete Kaufman, many of you know Pete. Pete will be assisting as well. I believe he's going to be coming in really, really early in the morning from, vacation the night before. So if he's a little weary-eyed, please forgive him. But Mark and Pete will be running the instructor meeting. That instructor meeting typically is only 15 minutes long, and I'll put together a little small agenda for that. But one of the things that's going to come up for anybody who doesn't know, they're going to have to get briefed on this map. So there'll be several of these big course layout maps. They'll be taped all over the place, all over the RV, on the registration table. Wherever we've got extra room, there's going to be these large maps. So hopefully all the instructors can peek at it in the morning, and certainly the ones that are here can ask me any questions or Mark any questions after the meeting or during the meeting. Anybody who's got a question during the meeting, it might benefit the folks that are going to be watching through the YouTube video. So please don't hesitate to ask. Just raise your hand and I'll shut up for a second. So let's see. So we're going to run one of the instructor meetings bright and early, 7:15 to 7:30. When all the students go inside for the classroom, the kind of the orientation that they start out, a little safety meeting and the orientation, the welcome for the students, that's at 9 o'clock. We're going to run another instructor meeting at that time. And that we have from 9 till roughly 9:30 to do that. So that's after the tech inspections. The students are all in there. We're going to run another instructor meeting just to make sure that we got everybody. Because there will be, I know it, there'll be instructors that come in after the instructor meeting. It happens for whatever reason. And so we just need to make sure that everybody's on board, because without you guys knowing exactly what you're doing, it's not going to benefit the students to run these new exercises if we don't have a firm understanding of what exactly we're doing. That's why we called this meeting today, because I wanted to get as many of you trained, if you will. And a lot of you have done this. A lot of you, this is not going to be anything, you know, certainly not earth-shattering, but just to see where it is on the map. And I'll walk through the map. It is a little busy. The map's very busy, but I think once I explain to you what's going on, it should be pretty make some sense. So, per my email, there is 5 stations this year, but we're only running 4 of them at a time. So in the morning session is more or less similar to what you guys have done in the past events. The morning session is going to have Station 1 is your regular slalom course. Nothing out of the ordinary. Your Station 2 is just your straight line braking. So again, pretty much you guys are very familiar with the straight line braking. And then there may be an opportunity we'll set up the course to also allow some of the turn braking as well. We'll talk about that, but. Station 3 is just a wet skid pad. Station 3 and Station 4 in the morning are just wet skid pads. They're not figure 8s. One's going to be, Station 3 is counterclockwise. When you see the map, you'll see the little counterclockwise symbol on Station 3, and then Station 4, you'll see the clockwise symbol. So those are your 4 stations in the morning, very much in line with what we've done in the past. Let's see, what else? Okay, and then once we go to the afternoon session, that's when things change. And that's when we're going to drop Station 3. So one of the skid pads drops, okay? So there'll be Station 1, 2, 4, and 5. And Station 5 is your 2 wheels off exercise, okay? So we won't have anybody at the wet skid pad in the afternoon. And then we're going to run the figure 8 on Station 4 down here at the bottom, and that will be similar again to what we've done last year. So nothing out of the ordinary there. But once we do back to Station 1 now in the PM, we're going to actually add a texting type of simulation to this exercise. In other words, and this is going to be strictly based on the instructor's comfort level with their student. Okay. Because you get assigned a student, obviously, in the morning, and I think you'll actually get assigned him. You'll know who it is beforehand. You should get an email, or it should be in your instructor packet. But you're going to have to use your general judgment. If the person was having a lot of struggles with the regular braking, or the regular slalom, excuse me, and you don't feel that they were that comfortable with adding that component of picking up their phone and in one hand trying to do this slalom course. The idea is that there's so much distracted driving in this that we're really trying to fight, that we need to add a distracted driving type of simulation into this event for it to be to maximize the benefit for the students. So basically what the idea is that the student will be picking up their phone with one hand and trying to maneuver their vehicle with the other. Now, if at any point you don't feel that is safe, you'll need to stop. Richard, I see you got a question.
So a alternative could possibly be having them count back from 50 by 3s. It takes the same amount of mental capacity to do that than it does to text. That allows them to keep both hands on the wheel.
Okay, so all right, let me follow that again. You said count to 50.
Start at 50, count backwards by 3s.
Start at 50, count backwards by 3s,
Yes.
and drive.
And drive. And they have to keep saying the numbers.
Okay.
And that is a similar amount of brain capacity to do that than to text.
Huh.
And that allows them to keep both hands on the wheel.
Okay. Well, I don't know, I'd be glad to get input from those to see if you prefer to go that direction. I mean, some of the stuff we can still debate even a week in advance.
text is more applicable to what these teens are doing on the street
Correct.
than trying, because they don't do math unless they have a calculator.
So they're gonna get out their phones to do the, yeah, you know.
And I think that's a great point, is that the actual having the device in their hand to them is what they're used to seeing or doing or watching even their parents. They've probably seen their parents do it. So I think that's a great point, but I also think that if you really feel the student needs to have two hands on the wheel because of their nervousness or the fact that they can potentially depart from where they're in the course, that's going to be up to the instructor. You guys really use your judgment. If you feel like you've got a real meek kid or student that just you really don't feel they can take both hands off the wheel, you may not do the extra exercise at all. You may just go back through the slalom. That is an option. It is completely up to the driver or the coach to decide if you feel comfortable that this person can do this.
Rick, can you explain how the texting actually works? What are they supposed to do with the phone in their hand?
Well, I don't want them to, I don't think the idea was for them to really actually text, but the idea, I think, was to have them actually have their eyes off of the road, kind of say, all right, here, put your eyes on their phone and then do this, and kind of back and forth like you would if you were texting. I don't know that we actually suggest that they start typing on their phone or anything.
Something I've done is pull something up on my phone and have them read it to me while they're trying to drive. Read it aloud. It's because it's kind of the same thing,
That's a great idea, Mark. I mean, if you pulled up something on their phone and just you could, yeah, you could,
What is this?
Right, and you can hand them your phone if you want. I mean, let the driver instructor make that determination, because I think initially you're going to want to be a little bit on the cautious side, okay? Because there is a possibility that this person with one hand on the wheel and trying to do something that they may never feel comfortable doing. I mean, there's going to be students that are like, well, we would never text and drive. We're not going to do that. There will be students that are going to say that, which they probably have. There's going to be a mix. There are going to be some that are going to be a little scared to do that, I guarantee it. So you guys need to use your judgment. I'm totally relying on the driving instructors to make that to be able to understand the student. It's the PM exercises. In theory, you should have been working with them in the AM. You should be getting a decent feel for your student, and then at that point you make that determination. So does that make sense to everyone? The idea is that you add some sort of component to this,
Right.
not just the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal. You find what you feel comfortable with. The idea we had was the phone, having them have one hand on the phone and at least something to gaze at. I like the idea of having them have something actually written on there.
Yeah, at least
We want the students to fail at this a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, we don't want them to go off. This is one where you're going to have some clear space. And when we set up the course, we have to make sure that we've got a good amount of lateral space, because when the student does do that, there's a good chance that they are going to go off. It's not just hitting the cone.
That's kind of what you're trying to make them do. Is
Correct.
Mess up.
And obviously we got to make sure they don't hit anything.
Right.
So we will definitely, when we get out there with all the folks beforehand, I'll be there at 6 in the morning. It's be nice and dark. We will go through and actually set up some of these difficult exercises and run them ourselves, because we want to run them ourselves to make sure that everything is good. If we see anything out there that ends up being a safety issue, we will certainly be addressing that from the very beginning, but I don't expect that we will. Everybody was kind of in the planning stages, have been on board with adding a little bit of something to distract the motorist and get the kid to maybe make the mistake. Because sometimes, they get into these exercises, especially the straight line braking. We've heard numerous times that the students don't seem to get a whole lot out of the straight line braking. You do it once, then you do it again, and it's kind of similar. And that you're not getting a whole lot, and you want to, you're telling them when to brake. Well, they need to see something visually come out in front of them as a surprise,
Right.
and without that surprise, it's not as effective. Well, that's why we're going to be doing this tailgate exercise. Leads me right into station number 2. Station number 2 is your straight line braking or your braking in turns, and what we want to add to that is we're actually going to have a couple volunteers use their own vehicle. They're going to be in their own line, probably on the left-hand side here. They're going to be in their own line, and when the person who's running the station says go, that first vehicle, the vehicle with the volunteer in it, who's going to be well coached in what they're doing, they're going to go. And they're going to go at they're going to get a pretty good clip, but they don't want to lose the student, because then the student is going to be told to go right after. So they get a little bit of a head start. The student and their coach are going to at that point say, okay, go. And they're going to try to keep that same distance roughly. The intent of the exercise that the student keeps, I mean, it's a tailgating exercise. You're trying to get the student to be pretty close to the driver. So the person, it's critical that the volunteer doesn't peel out and leave the other instructor. And we will be working on the coaching for that. I mean, that I'm not too concerned with, but that person's going to go, the second one's going to go. We're not 100% sure how effective this is going to be. This is new for us. It all is going to depend on the student being able to keep up roughly with the motors. If they're way back, when the motors brakes, they're not going to, I mean, it's not going to be as effective. So it's very important. So what's going to happen is that volunteer is going to go. They're going to go halfway down the course. At some point, they're going to slam on the brakes. Okay? That student, in theory, is going to be up next to them. They're offset about 10 to 20 feet. We're still talking about when we get out in the course layout, we'll have that set up with cones or something. But it's going to be offset to their right. So somewhere on this side, it will be line 2. That's going to have all the students with the instructors. Line 2, they're going to go as soon as the person in line 1 goes, okay, with a little bit of room. You know, let them go a couple seconds before or something. Then they're going to try to get up on them. When the volunteer brakes, slams on their brakes, the student has to react. The question is going to be how far does the student, how long is their reaction time, and how far do they skid once they react. The volunteer driver in line 1 is going to sit there and not move until till the student has come to a complete stop. The instructor's then going to say, okay, you know, either you appear to be a safe distance behind because you didn't hit them, because you're going to look across and you're going to look and see, did you hit them or not? Because in theory, when you're tailgating, you're right directly behind the person. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we have to offset it. And so when that student slams on their brakes, the instructor is going to help them judge how far did you give enough gap, did you not? Some of them, we're going to have some that don't end up that effective. The student doesn't put on the pedal fast enough, or maybe the volunteer went too fast, and it may not be 100% effective every single run. But the idea is that we're going to try to make this as effective as we can. And if you don't ever try it, then you're never going to succeed. So does anybody have any questions about that one? Because it does have, I mean, that's a different exercise that we're going to give a shot.
Has anybody done a dry run of that yet?
We have not done dry runs of it. With the morning of, certainly we are. I'm debating getting my group together maybe the day before on a Saturday. Anybody who's available going out there, and we may run some of these. I think that's a good idea because you really want to see what results you're going to get, and certainly the people that we're going to ask to volunteer for it, we really want to make sure that they have a full understanding of what the intent is and how fast they need to drive. If they drive too fast, they're going to lose the student, because the student's going to have to put on their pedal to the metal, and they may not feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
So they're probably going to start out more or less at 20 to 25 mile an hour until the student gets started, and then they're going to pick up speed. And the student is intent. The direction from the instructor is you keep the same speed to best of your ability. You keep the same speed as the person in front, the lead vehicle. And then when that lead vehicle, they're not going to know when the lead vehicle is going to slam on the brakes. Lead vehicle is going to pick where they slam on the brake. I don't really care when they do it. It could be right away. It could be all the way down the end of the course. And then you're going to kind of gauge. So maybe there's going to be a period of time there where the lead vehicle is just going to sit there, especially if it looks like they've been hit, and let the instructor maybe make a few comments about that, and then they'll leave and go back in line. So everybody gets back in line. The lead instructor, or the volunteer, gets back in line 1. The student comes back and gets in line 2, just like we do in any exercise. So, yes, sir.
In the morning, then, the straight line braking will involve the last minute left-right turn.
Well, and that's a good question. Mark, maybe you want to weigh in on that, because we put it in as braking in turns, but I think initially we said we were going to just do it as a straight line braking.
The students will get bored with straight line braking, and that'll be effective.
Okay.
And once we've done a few of those, then it will be up to the instructor with his student to decide, do we do the braking in turns,
Okay.
which I am sure all students will do. They may not do it at the same time. They might do 2 or 3 straight line brakings.
Right.
But throughout the morning, yes, there will be straight line braking and then braking in turns all the way.
Okay, I'll add that to this.
So in the morning,
I'll call that SLD.
so in the
as well.
morning, to to understand the flow of traffic, in the morning, the cars can be turning either left or right to return to the start.
Yeah, they'll have enough room.
But in the afternoon, it's only to the right.
When the students will only be to the right, that's correct. The volunteers will be to the left. That's correct, because the students are all gonna be on the right side, and they're all gonna come around and come on this line here. And I'm glad you mentioned this, because I wanna add one thing here. You see a lot of these lines here, some of you have seen this from last year, or the year before. But I've really added a lot of things to this, and it's gotten a little busy. But the thicker lines are after you hear that air horn go off. So these are 15-minute extra stations, like they've always been. Okay, there'll be air horns. When those air horns go off, that's when you go. That's when the students are going to be directed by the lead at the station. Whoever's running the station is going to kind of direct you, because we may let one or two more go depending on how many times they've got through to do like a skid pad or something like that. We've had some instances where, you know, person was waiting in line, they only went through once, and they're the first one in line, you hear the air horn. So that's all up to the lead at the station, how they want to do that. But basically, when you hear that air horn, the idea is you go to the next station. These thicker lines, okay, and they're all color coded based on the station you're going to. The thicker lines are after you hear the air horn to go to the next station. The thinner lines are of the same color, are how you get back to that station. That's kind of directing you how to get back to the same station. The thicker lines are directing you to the next station, okay? So don't get confused by that, and that's an important nuance. So, and I think that was on the maps last time as well. Jeff, I saw your hand earlier.
That was it. That was the question.
Oh, okay, perfect. So that's a good question. They will be coming all to the right in the afternoon. So I may try to make that a little clearer. I might put PM only, and maybe put, you know, volunteer in that line or something like that. I'll make that clearer. That's easy. Okay. Station then from station 2 to station 4. That's the same as it's always been. It's a wet skid pad with the figure 8. Does anybody have any questions about that? That's pretty straightforward. Everybody's done it. Okay. And then now here's where it gets tricky. Yes, sir.
3 is counterclockwise, you said?
In the morning, yes.
And 4 will be clockwise?
In the morning, correct.
In the morning.
And then in the afternoon, I don't care which way you go. If you want to switch them up for the figure 8, you want to go left, you want to go right, it doesn't matter. That's up to the instructor. But yes, counterclockwise, station 3, clockwise, station 4 in the AM. Okay, and there are arrows on here which it say CW and CCW, so it should be pretty clear which way you're going. Also, the lead at the station is going to remind you. You should have a quick conversation as you're coming up the first time. The lead at the station should be briefing you on what, you know, the logistics of what you're going to be doing. Okay?
I got one question about that.
Yes.
Last time I did this, it was very hard to get that car to back end to swing out sometimes, which is what you want to feel. You want to feel the back end drift out. Do you use any soap ever? That you ever, anybody?
We talked about that. I brought that up, and the Civic Center, I think that was the reason. Civic Center said no way. They didn't want that. They didn't want any soap in their drainage inlets and whatnot.
What about transmission fluid?
And that's a great question. It's in the event kit. If you read the Street Survival event kit, it tells you to try to use Dawn soap or some sort of, I don't know if it's corn or something. There was other ways of doing that. But the Civic Center, that was asked years ago, and the Civic Center said they didn't want us to do that. And I mean, I think the skid pads have still been pretty effective if we get enough water on them. And that has been an issue before. And we've relocated. We've the last event we relocated where the fire department is located, so that we can get water to both of these skid pads pretty easily. But it's going to be critical that he's stationed in the right place.
If your student is not adequately challenged, or you think they need that extra push, you are at liberty to use their emergency brake.
Yep.
If it's accessible.
But I don't want to work some cars.
That's correct. Yeah, don't go climbing across the driveway.
That's right. Emergency brake gotta be.
Yes, Jeff.
You know, sometimes when the hose leaves sort of a dry area, just a little bit of dry and the rest of it wet, that is a great way to teach somebody which direction the car's going to shoot off in.
Yeah, that's right.
When they get off the
Yeah.
bed.
Okay, so let me try to repeat what you just said, just in case it wasn't audible in there. So you're saying that when there's a little bit of the transition, kind of where it's some wet, some dry, it's giving you a better idea of how the vehicle will what way it's going to actually run off the road, or is that?
When it's like that in our skid pad and they hit the dry, and let's say the person's been correcting a lot in one direction, when they hit the dry, the car's gonna shoot off in that direction.
Okay.
So after you've done it a few times, the student gets the idea that you've got to sort of modulate where the wheels are,
Right.
so that you can control the car when it hits the dry.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Have the other guys had the same experience?
Yeah.
Huh, okay, that's good. That's good to know.
It's a little bit like the two wheels off exercise.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Last year, the lower skid pad was getting pretty close to some of the curbing down there. Has that been moved back up a little bit?
We're gonna move it the best we can. I think that still might be an issue. You're talking about in the figure 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, down here at the bottom.
yeah.
Yeah, we just don't have the space. It's not perfect, so it gets a little close. What we hopefully can do is move it back as much as we can. You have to, but you're really gonna have to have the student get started. Now, I guess it doesn't make a big deal if they get started and not going that fast the first time around, because you gotta continually encourage them to pick up their speed, because if they get from the line here and this is so too close, they're only gonna be going 15, 20 mile an hour when they start, and that means you have to encourage them to pick up their speed. Ideally, they're going 25 to 30 when they get into the circle, and that's going to be a problem. So the further we move that away, the harder that is going to be to accomplish. So, and we're not, I won't say we're not a little tight here too, because you've got handicap parking spots up here at the top, okay? Obviously we don't want to knock the signs down. And you've got the curbing down here as well. This intermediate road here makes it pretty difficult. So we're going to have some challenges.
That lower circle, you can't make it as tight as your diagram suggests.
Yeah. What, this one?
Yeah. I mean, you're doing a figure 8. It's not a big circle and a little tiny circle.
Well, the
If
figure
you're
8, I think it is a much smaller circle.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard for the students to make it real small.
Right.
Once they build up some speed.
Right. And that's something we'll be looking at when we set up the course. But that's what's going to get, if anything gets shrank, it has to be this. Because we cannot, I mean, obviously the closer we get to the buildings and whatnot, and of course there's street lights and other stuff out there, it is a little bit tight. And we've had the skid pads in other places. A couple events ago, the skid pad was over there. But as of right now, with the way we've set this course up, that's the best place to keep it. And we're going to give it a shot. And if it doesn't become effective, what I want to do, we're going to have and I'll invite all the instructors to this, we're going to have a post meeting after the event, because I really want to collect the pros and cons. I'm intending, unless they kick me out, I'm intending to run this again in the spring if we can get an event. So with that, I really need your input on what worked, what didn't work, and if we've got to relocate this again, back to the other side, if that's the way we do it, that's the way we do it. Because we used to have both skid pads up here on this corner where Station 1 is. But we moved them down, and we're going to do the best we can. But yeah, that's a great point. We recognized that when we set it up there last event. I said, man, this is a little tight. But it worked. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Nobody flew out too far, and so everything was fine. But that's a good point. But that is what's going to be tighter, though. If anything has to be tightened, it's going to be that. So, any other questions up to Station 4? All right, now to Station 5. And Station 5, we're giving this two wheels off exercise a go. Now, I want to point out for anybody who's viewing this online and the map that I printed out. We had a little mishap. I think I sent Hogan the wrong version to print out. So the two wheels off exercise here is not what is different than the one that I sent by email. The one I sent by email is the correct revised version. I apologize for any confusion here. But the map actually, I was not sure where we were actually going to run it. Mark corrected me at the last meeting. We're actually using the little parking lot up here. It's 200 feet long, so it's not very long. They're actually going to have to be driving, the station location, the students are actually going to be lining up in the grass. Okay, we'll clear out all the grass, make sure there's nothing in the grass in the morning of, and then we'll routinely check it. I've got field marshals that will routinely check to make sure nothing gets in there that could pop somebody's tire or anything like that, but it's very flat. Students going to come in, they're going to line up in the grass. Now the map is oriented north. The Salem Civic, the baseball stadium is over here on the right side of this. The Salem High School football stadium is on the top end. So the student parking is way down here at the southwest corner. The exercise is actually further south than that, off the map. That's why it's in an inset down here on the bottom. Instead of redoing the whole map, I took the area that we didn't need in the map and I made an inset. Again, this has been slightly revised, but there's a 200-foot long gravel lot. Okay, Mark Wilson here is working with the city of Salem. They're going to bring a motor grader out and they're going to actually trench. It's about 3 to 4 inch deep. Okay, and they're going to come out and do that. The intent is that we try to simulate as best we can. This is going to be an interesting one as well because everybody's pretty concerned that it may be great for the first 3 students. And then it might get filled in. We're going to have some shovels on scene. We're going to use our judgment. If we feel like we can do anything to maintain it, we'll be ready to do it. As far as trying to dig it out a little bit more if we feel like we need to. Certainly in the morning we're going to be riding it. When they do the trenching, Mark, you said you're meeting on Saturday, correct?
To do the trenching will be on Thursday.
Thursday, okay. So Mark will be out there meeting with them on Thursday. We're going to definitely ride it. I don't know if you were planning on doing any test runs.
I will.
Yeah, Mark's going to do some test runs. I'll probably get some of the other driving instructors to do it. Because certainly if we don't feel comfortable using our vehicles to do it, we don't want the students to do it. But we're pocket committed to going into this now. So we're going to make every effort. Mark's going to be working there on site to make sure the trench isn't too deep and that it will be safe. And then I'll explain, I can see we got a question, and I'll explain the nuances of the exercise.
So this is gravel to ditch, not pavement to unpaved.
That's correct, and
Shoulder.
that's the best we could do. It's the best we could get the Civic Center to agree to.
Okay, because what they're gonna encounter 90% in reality is pavement
Correct.
to dropping the right side wheels off
right.
into unpaved surface.
That's right. And you're 100% correct. There was no way to simulate that in the area that we had because the
I
Civic
mean, there
Center.
was a kid that had exactly that died just
Yeah.
2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
Did exactly that
Right.
thing.
Well, our hope is that we give the sensation of going from, it's from a gravel to a ditch, and you're right, 99% are going to be from the pavement, the asphalt, to an earthen shoulder grass that's rutted out. We're going to try. Our goal is if we can give the sensation to the motorist at all, if they can get the sensation even of what it feels like to be down below the surface, we've accomplished something. It's not perfect, but we've accomplished something if we can make that trenching work. So we're glad the Civic Center is even willing to entertain the idea, to be honest with you. Of course, City of Salem will be putting the trench back once it's done, but it's pretty exciting, the stuff we're doing this year. It's challenging. That's why I wanted to have this meeting, because there are so many differences than what we've ever done with students that the coaching this year and the instructors are more critical than they've ever been. I can tell you that. I've only done 3 events, and I can tell you this is more critical than we've ever done in Salem Civic Center, that the folks here have a full understanding of how to coach the student and what we're actually getting done. I'll real quickly go through the idea here. The students, they're going to be parked up. You can't quite see it, but there's kind of in this grassy area up here. It's a little bit further off the map, but they're going to be parked up in that grassy area. I've shown how to get there. That's the black line from Station 4. It's the large black line that tells you how to get to it. Okay. Then they're going to be stationed up there. So in the grass, they're going to start picking up speed. You're going to want them to get to 25, 30 mile an hour is probably the max that you're going to be able to do. So the student gets to 25 to 30 mile an hour. It's critical also that they get into the trench, or else it doesn't do any good. There's going to be some hesitation. Some of the students are going to feel a little weird about it, I guarantee it, but that's what we run into. Some of them might be really excited to take mom and dad's car into a trench. I don't know, but I don't know. But it 25 to 30 mile an hour, because you don't have a lot of room. Now, luckily, there's wide open grass space. There's no hazards in this case, but it's only 200-foot long gravel lot, and then you're back in the grass. So they're going to get, when they get through it, they're going to go back in the grass, and they're just going to loop right back around. Okay? You look like you might have a question.
Yeah, are we gonna have them, like they're gonna be in a trench, so do we tell them to ease it out of the trench like you're supposed to do, or do we have them jerk the wheel to see what really happens? I mean, not jerk the wheel, but make a harder turn than you normally would to show.
Well,
If they're just
the question
slip into a ditch
is,
and slip back out again, they're really not gonna, I don't think that's gonna be that effective.
right, and I guess that's a good question. Mark, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I was gonna let you finish, I was gonna take a few minutes and go over as well, so.
Okay,
I'll
all right.
answer some questions on that.
Okay, all right, well, and the good question is, you know, if they didn't get through the audio, is basically, you know, do we want them to succeed at this event by going into the trench and just slowly getting their way out? Or we want them to get that sensation of overcorrecting and actually jerking their wheel? I think that's a great question, and we'll answer some of that here in a minute. Now, critical part of this is I'm going to have unlike any other event, and this isn't a big deal, but I'll have somebody staged here because I set this course up. The way I do it is I don't want in between stationing, you know, when you get the air horn and you go from one station to another, I don't want any cars crossing each other. I don't want to have paths of one group crossing paths of another. And with this two wheels off exercise, there was no way to avoid it. Because the two wheels off exercise is way off into its own space, if you will, and it's out in its own area. So at this point right here, when they're coming back, when you leave the two wheels off exercise, you're going to be going either, you know, depending on what group you are, the next one is station 1, okay? So and then the folks coming from station 4 to the two wheels off station 5 are going to be crossing. So I'll have some part, and they should be very visible, it shouldn't be a big deal, but I will have somebody there monitoring just to make sure that nobody actually hits each other. But the driver, I just want the instructors to be aware that there is a cross between station 5 and station 1 and station 4 and station 5, okay? And you'll see the little parking attendant I showed in here, that's what they're there for. They're also going to be there when the original entrance, when the students come in, but they're going to be stationed there during the driving exercises for that issue. Let's see. With that, I'm not sure there's anything else that really stands out. We have some demonstrations that we'll run during the lunch hour, just like we always do. And I still have to confirm the semi-demo, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be there. But I'm still waiting on their new safety supervisor. We'll have an airbag demonstration, and then we've got a new one that's not on here. It's on the one I sent out. That Yovaso is actually running what they call a scan ed demonstration, and that is basically where they're going to have a crashed car that's going to be delivered by a towing company, and then they somehow hook up iPads to that. I don't know how they hook it up. They hook it up to one of the light poles, I think, and the students do some sort of demonstration. And I don't know enough about it to really give you the full explanation. It's not something you guys need to necessarily concern yourself with because it's not one of the driving exercises, but there's some pretty neat stuff going on. And it should all be pretty much straightforward. So, any other questions before I turn it over to Mark to?
Do we have an itinerary?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a proposed schedule. I sent it to my guys the key staff to try to vet it. I think I said 48 hours, Mark, for you guys to comment on the schedule, and then that schedule will be going out to you. So I'll be giving you everything you need. All of you should have email from me. Obviously you do because you're here. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions beforehand, or Mark, because Mark's our lead instructor. I don't want to step on his toes at all on anything. But if you got general questions, I'm certainly available to answer those as well. Gary, you have a question?
I did, two actually. Did I remember reading pull out my coach's manual, maybe in there, but on your tailgate exercise, isn't the ideal trailing distance 4 seconds?
Correct.
Is that
That's I think they say 4 seconds is what they consider safe, I guess you would say.
Okay.
What you want them to do is be pretty close to them. So
Yep.
the idea is that you don't wait you're pretty much going to be delivering the student right after that lead vehicle goes. I mean, you want them pretty close.
Yeah, okay.
The lead vehicle has to be paying attention because they need to make sure they don't leave the person, and they need to make sure that the person's not ahead of them as well. They got to go fast enough that when they really slam on their brakes, it's slamming on the brakes, not slowing down. And that student and the instructor really need to be, on top of it, of the instructor saying, hey, you got to speed up, make this work.
4 seconds is
Yeah.
the right time.
Yeah,
The second
correct.
question, had a father in Lynchburg today asked me, can he ride in the back seat if he keeps his mouth shut? Now, I don't know.
I don't think they allow any, Mark, you may know better than I do, but I don't think they allow any parents
Well, I
inside
don't know what
the
the
vehicle.
official ruling on it is, but my suggestion would be absolutely
No,
not.
yeah, I don't think we want to allow any parents.
They can observe from the sidelines all they want, but
Right.
not in the vehicle.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, I think that might be I think there is something about that in the event kit. Yeah, and I'll double check that, but I can't see a situation where we would want to allow that.
I can see no benefit and lots of reasons why you wouldn't.
Right, right.
Some parents wouldn't keep their mouth shut. Probably.
That's right, and I mean, as exciting as that is, it causes some issues for us, and the more people we put into the course, especially if they have not been in these meetings and trained and understand what they're doing, even if they're just in the car, it adds complexities that we don't want to do. So I would not allow any parents into the vehicles.
Okay.
So, any more questions for me, and then I'm gonna let Mark add in what he needs to add in.
A regular
Yes.
instructor that has 2 students would never be a lead car.
Correct. You're in. All the instructors are in the vehicle with the student. These are volunteers that are line number 1 is purely volunteers, not instructors. I mean, we're all volunteers, but not driving instructors. These are my field marshals. These are my people doing registration. These are folks that are not in driving instruction. You all are in the line 2 with the student. Okay.
And at 7 o'clock, should we have eaten breakfast, or will there be coffee and donuts there?
There will be coffee and donuts there. There should be plenty for everybody. I think we've never had that problem before, have we, Mark? Yeah. So feel free to come. Great question. Because don't want you guys to miss out and go eat really early in the morning and then find out you could have eaten it at our place. Yeah, we will have donuts and coffee in the morning. And then as long as you're there at 7 a.m., there's going to be some time to kind of relax a little bit. You'll go through the driver-instructor meeting, but students are going to come in 7:30, 8-ish, and they may not get to their tech inspection right away. You know how that goes. We're going to try to round them up as best we can, but sometimes it's like herding cats. So we'll see what happens there.
Should
Yes,
we
sir.
bring any equipment such as
Oh.
tire pressure gauges? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that, do you guys encourage that all those are brought by, the tire gauges are brought by each individual instructor, Jeff?
It helps.
Yeah, I would certainly suggest that you bring your own tire gauges, but we'll have the air compressors, I believe the tanks as well. Gary should have, I think you're kind of coordinating a lot of what we need there, but we in the last meeting, we decided who was gonna bring those type of things. So the only thing I would really suggest you bring is your tire gauge. The rest of it we should have. Great question.
Will not have a goodie bag this year. With the tire gauge in there, like we've had previously, that will not be this year.
Quick question.
Good. I did not even realize that was in the goodie bag, so I'm glad you said
That
that.
was like the first year, it was like a little Michelin Man thing, yeah. Last time, because we do like a tech inspection, right? Check the tires, check, make sure they can check the oil and stuff.
Yep.
I had a car last time and there was like no oil in it. Are we gonna bring some oil on hand? Just in case it's a little bit of a deferred maintenance kind of thing?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, well, I just don't know.
That's all the parts is not far away.
Yeah, right.
Not so-
I don't think there was any on the guy's dipstick that I checked, so.
I mean, is that something that's easy enough to put on the supply truck and bring?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have it. I mean, it's as cheap as it is. If you can add that to it, that's a great point, Mark. So the question there was, if somebody shows up, they don't have no oil, they're checking their tire pressure, they're checking their oil, they don't have any oil. What do you do? So yeah, if we have a couple quarts or something, that'd be helpful.
And then just put some 50/50 antifreeze down on the truck too.
That's what.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess
that'll
we
work.
We should bring a cloth or something like that, because they may not show up, have a cloth to wipe the dipstick with.
Well, yeah, we'll have paper towels and stuff like that. That shouldn't be an issue. We'll make do. If somebody actually has that issue, as long as we have the oil, the rest of it is not a problem.
I was just wondering, there was no oil to be found when it happened to me, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we would have thought of that. Hold on, I gotta get to you because I've said go ahead
Yeah,
like 3
sorry.
times, and I'll get you, Sherry.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Little confusion last year about linking up with the student. Can you go
Yes.
over how that's
I'm actually
gonna
gonna cover
happen?
that if that's all right.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as he's done, I'm gonna go.
because it's not on the itinerary.
It's not. That's a good question, Mark. Okay, you'll get that when I'm done. Yes, Sherry.
Who does the tech inspections? Do the instructors?
And I'll get that
do-
too.
The instructors all do the tech inspections with their students. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it might be time for me to.
Yeah.
step up. All right.
Turn it over to Mark Wilson.
I am Mark Wilson, the Mark Wilson, not that Mark Wilson. And I can assure you that I'm a lot more brief than this guy. So this will be quick and to the point. It is most important that the instructors show up on time, because the most important aspect, no matter how crazy or how disorganized we might be as an organization, the students don't need to know that. They need to be aware that we are in control and that we know what we're doing. When we will, of course, attempt to be there 7 o'clock, 7:15, we'll have a driver's meeting to go over a lot of this stuff, but after that meeting, the students will already be registering themselves. As they come into the stadium, volunteers will be putting numbers and letters on their car, and they will be directed to their parking place. All we have to do as instructors, once we've gotten through our meeting and we've done our own registration, is we're going to go to their parking place. They don't need to be looking for us. We will find them. And you won't get both of your students at the same time. They will show up at various times. But as soon as you have an opportunity, introduce yourself to your student. Make them feel comfortable. Make them feel as relaxed as they possibly can, because this is going to be new stuff to them. And most of you guys that have done this already know what I'm talking about. They have no idea what to expect. You will do a tech inspection with both of your students. Yes, sir.
How do we find out who our students are?
It will be in your registration package. It'll also be in your email inbox before the event. So there should be no confusion. So if you don't know anything else, you will know who your student is or students are. So once we've gotten through the meeting, we've had our coffee and donuts and had our fun time and our whatever, we want to be intentional about finding our students at the first comfortable opportunity, introducing ourselves, learn a little bit about them, just like you do for those of us that are high performance driving instructors. Get to know your student and get a little rapport going with them, but make them feel comfortable with you. But let them know that you know what you're doing, even if you don't know what you're doing. Let them know that you know what you're doing. We have event coordinators that will brief us on what we're doing should there be any concerns. But we know generally what we're doing. We just need to know who our students are and where we're supposed to be. So once you've introduced yourself and you've had some time to get to know your student, you want to do the simple things. You'll be getting, the students, I believe, will get a trash bag when they register. But when you meet with your student, invariably, even though they've been told, the car will have stuff in it. All you need to do is get them to empty their loose items from the trunk and the car and whatnot and secure what's left in the glove box. You want to check tire pressures. All you guys know how to find it in the door, whatever, gas cap door. Let the students do that. You don't need to be doing their tires unless they're just absolutely incompetent, but you need to let them do that. Check their tires, inflate them as necessary. There will be plenty of air tanks around. There will be plenty of air pressure gauges around. There will be plenty of shop towels for checking oil. That will not be a problem. There will be oil, whatever you might need. We just want to make sure we don't blow any cars up and that we don't have loose items running around in the car, and the students know who we are. Enough said about the check-in and the tech inspection. You want tire pressures, make sure there's no loose items. You want to check the fluid levels as best you can. Beyond that, this isn't a high-speed driving event. This is, a youthful training program. Yes, sir.
Floor mats in the car, okay?
I see no problem. They're going to be driving with floor mats in the real world.
Okay.
Again, it's not a high-speed driving event. This is real-world driving. Yes, sir.
Is somebody gonna tell the students that at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they need to be standing at their car? Because last year, we were at the cars.
Sure.
And the students were all somewhere else milling around,
Well, I can assure you that if they're not, it won't be our fault, will it?
okay.
No, no.
That will be taken care of.
Yeah, we've got enough people that are gonna
Yeah.
be dedicated to herding the cats, as I say, and making sure they get to where they are. But what's the worst part is if the student is waiting at their car, which has definitely happened, where the student is at their car and they're looking around saying, what am I supposed to do? Where's my instructor? That is the worst thing we can have happen. So that's why it's very critical that you get there, you get registered, you get your donuts and your coffee, and you get to the site, and you be ready, and then we're gonna get the students there. Okay, that is a big focus that we put in on our planning to get the students to their car.
So, yes, it's not our problem, but they should already know who we are. We should have already found them. Don't waste time finding them and introducing yourself. Even if you have two of them at the same time, introduce yourself and say, I'll be with you in a minute. But you know what to do there. It's easy stuff. Any questions on that? Because once that's all done, we've got it easy for like an hour. Because the students are going to go off to their morning meeting. We can go to that meeting if we want. We can sit around and tell lies and drink coffee and donuts.
Yeah, well, I think we were gonna do the coaches meeting again, in case because we're probably gonna miss some instructors.
But not in the classroom.
Not in the classroom,
Yeah.
outside, right, that's correct.
That will be there at the RV. And if nobody said it before, the RV is where we'll meet somewhere in that proximity.
Yeah, and that's just where registration is. You'll
Okay.
see the RV actually on the
Sure.
map there, so.
So with that said, any more questions about getting started? If not, then I don't think there's any questions on the different events. And again, a lot of this you will fine tune based on the comfort level and the skill level of your student. There's a lot of talk about the braking exercise, the tailgate exercise. I believe we've never done it before. It's going to be a learn as you go for us, but it just will be what it will be. Same with the two wheels off. We did do this once before. For those of you that were around at the very first school we ever did, in this same area, we did a two wheels off. It was very ineffective because all we did was drive from the gravel to the dirt and then back to the gravel again. It was fairly useless, but it taught us what we know now, what needs to happen. So what we're doing this time was it's not the same as asphalt to dirt and back, but there will be a transition, a very noticeable transition. And my expectation, and this is all subject to change once it starts, because again, it's a learning process, we will accelerate reasonably quickly up to 25 or 30 mile an hour on the gravel and have our students go off and come back on again. And as best, and I've done this before, we actually set this exercise up 2 events ago and ended up not using it because it was too deep. But at best, we're going to get 2 opportunities to go off and come back on again before we run out of space. So your feedback is going to be very important as this exercise goes on. But keep in mind that we'll only have 4, 5, no more than 6 cars at a time at that station. So the first group that goes out will be the most critical one to see what kind of feedback we're going to get. And hopefully we can get that information back to the station leader to give more feedback to the next group. But it will be a learning experience. And if we don't do anything else, we will at least be able to simulate the difference between coming off and immediately coming back on and going off and coming back on gradually. So if it doesn't work in a practical sense, it will at least have a theoretical benefit, and it'll help us design the next 2-wheel off that we do.
And let me jump in, because I think the other Mark Wilson's question of whether we want to
Start in the ditch? No.
No,
well,
ease them out of the ditch.
ease them out of it, or
go a little harder out just to see if we can make the car.
Well, you'll have to figure that out as you see fit with your student. For me, I would just tell them to drive off and come back on and see what they do. Don't give them a whole lot of feedback. Don't tell them what you want them to do.
Right.
Just let them do it.
Okay.
And you'll figure out real quick whether it's going to work or not going to work. But yes, you want to, at some point, explain the proper way to recover from a 2 wheels off. But no, don't tell them how to do it in the beginning. They won't learn much.
I think the idea is the sensation.
Yeah.
If we can make if we can get somehow the sensation of of the feeling of what it is to go off the road or close to it, then we've accomplished something. Regardless of what the reaction is, we've accomplished something because we've given them the real world idea of what this is the most, to me, this is the most critical exercise if it works correctly. This is the most critical exercise we've got because this is what you see every day. I mean, and I work for a Department of Transportation, and I study every fatal accident in Salem District, which is 12 counties. And I see this all the time. It's the overcorrecting type fatalities, running off the road. You know, these are the type of things that you see every day.
I don't think we gotta sell people on the need for it.
Yeah.
We know we need to do it. But it is gonna be a learning experience. I will tell you that this is not just a gravel lot. This is a very packed gravel. It is not quite chip, what do you call it, tar and chip, but it is very, very solid. When we did it last year, I had the city of Salem cut a 4-inch sharp edge, and the sharp edge will be on the left side. So as we're driving on the road, as it were, and we drop into it, we're going to be dropping off up to a 4-inch drop, and then it will gradient back up again. But I want to have that grade as long as I can possibly make it so they get all the benefit out of this sharp drop. The problem is some cars will tolerate that better than others, and we will run the risk of damaging some cars. So that's the other thing I'd like for the instructors to pay attention to. If you've got a car that's making a lot of bottom out noises when it drops off that thing, you might want to back them off a little bit.
So they're gonna be going off the pavement
Correct.
on the left side of the car?
No, on the right side.
Oh, I thought you said the trench.
No, the trench is going to be sharp on its left edge, which is
okay.
on the right side of
Okay,
the
so
car.
it's gonna go down.
Correct, yeah, the trench is going to be a sharp drop just as you come off of a road, and then because it has to be graded, it'll be graded up from there. But our goal is to make that grade as long as possible to get as much out of the trench as we can. So yes, they will drop off. When I did it last year, we did a 4-inch cut. We're going to drop it back to about a 3.5-inch. My concern is, as he's already pointed out, as the day goes on, this drop is going to get smaller and smaller and become less and less effective. So our feedback is going to change. I ran the course in a Porsche 944 and in a Saab 900, my son's car, just to get a feel for it. And I had no issues with those two cars, and they're fairly low cars. So I don't expect there to be any problems with most of the more normal street cars. But as I said, there might be some touchdown. And while that won't hurt anything, we don't want our students tearing up their cars or doing something that they feel uncomfortable with. So if they don't like it, I think we ought to say, you don't have to do it again.
Correct.
So, learning experience for us.
Will the 2 wheels off be covered in the classroom?
Yes.
Okay.
2 years ago, when you said the 2 wheels off was a failure, I think it was because we were instructed to tell the student right away, just bring it on gently.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as I followed the rules, that was fine, but in the end, my student got bored, and so I said, bring it on hard. And you really could feel it, and the student really learned something right away. So I think a critical part of this is to get the student to bring it on hard and sort of shoot across the road.
Right. And that's where your instruction skills come in. You really need to feel or have a connection with your student and get a feel for whether you're actually doing anything useful or not.
Yeah, and it may be, you know, that you, at the beginning, the very first pass, you may not go at it hard, you know, just because, you know, you want to see how the vehicle reacts, how the student reacts, just to an easy transition, and then maybe from there, you hit it hard, you know, you ask them to, all right, put on the pedal a little bit and go right off and see what that sensation is. It's up to the driving instructor. You guys can make those calls.
And when you come back around, give feedback to the station leader, please. Don't do a dissertation, but make it brief because people will be waiting. But I think the feedback, especially from that first group of cars, is going to be critical to how much we learn from it and how much the students learn from it. Okay? Yes, sir.
You said earlier in your presentation on this exercise, you expect to get 2 tries at the per pass?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we might get more, but I think I think you can count on two pretty
Well,
well.
they need to have some speed
Yes,
in order to.
That's why
and
we're
that-
starting
and that's
them in the
gonna eat-
grass.
That's gonna eat space.
right,
Yeah, to get the benefit of the.
sure.
Yeah, and that's like Mark just said, that's why we're pushing them back in the grass
Right.
to start. The station will start in the grass so they can start speeding up there, and by the time they're in the gravel, you're hoping they're at least at 20, and then they continue to speed up a
Right.
little bit, into 25, 30 mile an hour is your target speed. That way, if they do happen to overcorrect or really react, they're not flying off into, a parking lot. So they're able to, it's certainly, they're able to get their vehicle back under control without. much
Any other questions? We'll turn it over to Brent, he'll be short.
Yep.
Promise.
All right, thanks, Mark. That was very helpful. You added a lot of input that I wouldn't have been able to add, not having been a driving instructor before.
I've never done 480 before.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. I don't think I have anything else. Like I said, I'll reiterate, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Everybody there, get ready to check in, and that way everybody's ready. You get an opportunity to get yourself something to eat, and we'll also, like I said, we are really looking for your feedback, more than we maybe looked for in the past. So I'll be setting up a post meeting. Hopefully, some of you guys can attend. If you can't, you can shoot me an email with what your suggestions are. But looking forward to it, and I thank you guys for taking the time to come today, and I hope that you all are more prepared, and I'm more prepared just having this conversation. So thanks, everybody.